Goodman. I'm the director of the China Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. And it's, before we do make a proper start, let me acknowledge the land upon which the university is based and pay respects to its elders, past, present, and emerging, and their traditions the same. It's my great pleasure today to have two of my favorite colleagues joining me on this panel that we have. Jamie Riley is going to chair. Jamie Riley from the Department of Government and International Relations at University of Sydney, who is one of the leading scholars on China's international relations. And he's going to introduce Linda Chelan Li, who I've known for considerably longer, but who is a famous, excuse me, a famous scholar of both Chinese politics and outward policies of China, who's based at City University, Hong Kong. Over to Jamie.
Thank you very much, David. Fantastic. I'm really honored and glad to be able to help host this session with Professor Linda Chelan Li. She is a professor at the Department of Public International Affairs and also the director of the Research Center for Sustainable Hong Kong, both at the City University of Hong Kong. She's the founding director of this center, which is really engaged in an interesting focus on conducting cross-disciplinary and cross-sector applied research with real-life impact, both in Hong Kong and in the region. So she's leading something she's not going to speak about today on the role of the center, CSHK, and COVID-19, a collaborative project looking at the approach to COVID in different jurisdictions. So that's one of her many other projects. She also is author of a number of books, Center and Provinces in China from 1978 to 1993, towards responsible government in East Asia, something I know we all would like to have more of, rural tax reform in China, and then more recently, the co-evolution of Hong Kong's professional services in the Belt and Road Initiative in Chinese, and facts and analysis, canvassing COVID-19 responses. So these are really a fascinating and diverse array of research expertise and publications. But we're going to hear today about her latest book, which is co-edited with Phyllis Mo, entitled Hong Kong Professional Services in the Belt and Road Initiative, Challenges for Co-Evolving Sustainability. So I'm very glad and honored to welcome Professor Li to speak with us today. She'll talk with us for about half an hour or so, and then we'll field your questions and comments disguised as questions, and I'll feed those along to Professor Li. So we look forward to both a lively presentation and a very engaged discussion. Thank you very much, Professor Li. Over to you.
Thank you, Jamie, and thanks, David, for inviting me to join this very important webinar series. Well, I'm a political scientist, working on Chinese government reforms and institutional change processes. So, but about 10 years ago, I decided that I should pay more attention to Hong Kong, not because I'm based in Hong Kong, of course. Okay, I live in Hong Kong, and of course, Hong Kong is it is part of China. All right. So, the concern and the study of Chinese politics obviously cover Hong Kong as well. But in particular, I think over years, as a resident of Hong Kong, we are fully aware of the evolving and deepening discussions over the future, not only about the future of Hong Kong, okay, but also about how Hong Kong can make a difference, and how Hong Kong have made a difference to the development of China, of mainland China. And so this interests and concern, okay, how to make things work or enhance its processes. So some colleagues and I, start thinking more into this, and then so some years back, we started to work on this project on the Belt and Road Initiative. Well, one reason is because this policy from the central government of China, okay, has created a bit of a controversies, not only well, obviously internationally, all right, but especially also in Hong Kong. And one particular reason why it has caused much of discussion here, it's obviously because Hong Kong has been called upon to play a role, okay, and a major role into this important initiative by the central government. But at the time, I think, indeed today as well, okay, a lot of discussions were going on and have been going on. And then there were questions, a lot of questions being asked. And at the time when we started this ponderings in 2015 and 2016, we cannot find a lot of answers. Actually, today, a lot of answers are still not readily available. But I think that in those days, we felt that we, as academics, we might have a role, okay, in trying to getting some informed discussions, okay, on this important issue. After all, like it or not, this is going to consume a lot of policy attention and resources, all right, resources that that comes from from society, because all tax money are from the citizens, right? From the citizens. So like it or not, this is going to cost, right? This is going to cost. It's not going to go away or wish it away. So that's the original, I think, the idea that behind our forming a team, actually among colleagues from different disciplines, are working on this project. So this project takes us a few years, okay, you know, a couple of years to plan, and then to take off in 2017. And then we finish it, well, formally, of course, no research ever finished, but kind of formally, okay, concluded. And a couple of years ago, when the COVID started, okay, so we, when a few work need to stop because of COVID, and we take the time to consolidate the findings, and now the book would be forthcoming in hopefully in a few months' time. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about this work. Okay, this is the first time I talk about this work since we finished the book. Of course, during the course of research, myself and our team, okay, because we have a relatively large team, okay, with faculty members as well as research assistants and PhD students. We have quite a lot of engagement and discussions with various parts of the academia and also our external stakeholders. But this is the first time we talk about it since the book was concluded a few months ago. Okay, let me go down the screen. How come it doesn't work? Okay, it works now. Well, so in a nutshell, I try to be brief today. In a nutshell, it's you know, we're trying to talk about you know, the challenges into the Belt and Road Initiative. All right, because after years, okay, the Belt and Road Initiative was first proposed, okay, and then after some years, we quickly create a lot of controversy. So I'm not going to go into that. You know, that has been well discussed in a lot of literature and also summarized in our book. But the objective is actually, you know, we try to review the difficulties again, and then talk to as many as stakeholders we can, okay, from various sources, and to see what's actually have gone wrong, okay, what actually have gone wrong. And also we, because we are based in Hong Kong, we focus on the role of Hong Kong, you know, what is actually meant to, what does it mean by saying that when the policymakers emphasize that Hong Kong needs to play a major role into this Belt and Road Initiative. So we basically visit this two questions, and then the method of our work, it's using a combination of research methods, but mostly I think characteristics of our approach is by doing a lot of engagement with the relevant stakeholders as we move along. So we call it the action research approach. Okay, and then we so altogether we have talked to over 400 different stakeholders in Hong Kong, in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, and in a number of overseas jurisdictions, mostly in Southeast Asia, but not only there. And also we did a survey on our with some Hong Kong-based professionals to gather the views between 2016 and 2019. So what are the, well, I'm going to talk briefly, okay, some of the major findings of our work. We find that a lot of difficulties arising, arising in the process can be attributed to the ambiguity in the very concept of the Belt and Road Initiative. So, so the ambiguity surrounding the Belt and Road Initiative, I think those are play a very large role into the difficulties. One indication of of the ambiguity is that whether this policy, okay, what does it seek to do, and how actually we can describe this policy. So actually this is revealing, because the Chinese government had attempted to actually they have renamed how they call this policy, because initially when this policy was first raised, it was in Chinese is literally one belt and one road, okay, and so and in the domestic discussion within China, they talk a lot about this diverse directions, okay, and multiple objectives. Some of the discussions focus on how to make a better use of the so-called excess capacity in the manufacturing and different sectors of the Chinese industries, and how to actually boost the development of the less well-off, less developed Western part of China. And then some others would talk about how this policy would enhance the foreign policy engagement with a larger number of nations and countries to beef up the national power and so on and so forth. And so there is a multiple directions and multiple emphasis that has been included in the domestic discussions on when after Xi Jinping talk about the Silk Route and also the Silk Road, right? And so, but then 2 years after this initial discussions in 2015, the Chinese government, in fact, officially moved to kind of, consolidate the discussion about the policy. And they literally say that from now on, the discussion should not describe the policy as a strategy. Okay, they said we should drop the term in Chinese, the 战略, okay, meaning strategy, okay, major strategy, to describe the policy. Instead, we should call it an initiative, okay? So that's why now we also call this a Belt and Road Initiative. This is after the official the new official name, okay, of the policy. So the word initiative in Chinese, they call it 倡议, okay, with a connotation. The connotation is much softer. Softer means that this is a policy which the Chinese government would like to propose, right? Would like to propose to others, all right, to others, to the rest of the world, or including to other stakeholders, all right, and then to work together towards some objectives, okay. But the emphasis is that it is a proposal. It is a proposal, and it requires the cooperation and collaboration of others. But for the so this is different from the original emphasis on strategy in the earlier domestic discussions within China, which talks about, okay, it is a strategy, okay, this is something the Chinese government, okay, or the Chinese society on the whole, led by the party, okay, by the leaders, in order to get something important done, right? So the connotation is it's very much different. So this comes this renaming, okay, was done in 2015, late 2015, in reaction to the emerging international suspicions. So it really tells that you know, at the beginning, when the Chinese leadership talks about that they want to embark on this new policy, okay, new venture, there's a lot of fluidities, okay, or room, okay, for development, and so so that's why they want to kind of clarify and to confirm that what they are trying to do is not what many within China thought that is going to happen. So this is another indication of the ambiguity of the policy can be found in the first official document on the policy, which is the document called the Vision and Actions on Jointly Building the Silk Road Economic Belt and Maritime Silk Road. This document was promulgated in 2015 March, okay, and this is the first official document on the policy. So basically more than 18 months, okay, or so after Mr. Xi's proclamation of this new venture. But even though it takes a long time, okay, to be released, but the document was famous for its brevity. It was very short in details, okay, with fewer than 6,000 words in main text, and in fact, you know, people have put to its main drafter, okay, in the central government, in the NDRC, why, you know, you have taken your time to prepare this document. Okay, everybody was looking forward to it and to tell us more about this important policy of the central government, right? But there is so little detail and specific measures. So the response from the main drafter was that, well, we intended to leave as much room as possible so that, you know, the forthcoming participating governments and other actors can make their footprints, okay? So we don't want to, you know, prescribe, okay? In other words, we don't want to over prescribe, and so that so we want to leave a lot more rooms, so that our new partners, okay, our forthcoming partners can make their impact, all right? So on the one hand, it sounds great, right? It seems that, you know, the Chinese government is opening its door and inviting inputs into the making of a very important national policy or initiative. But I think in practice, as we see what evolved subsequently, no such genuine participation or co-writing of government policy has occurred. And in fact, a very large ambiguity persisted since then, since the promulgation of the document of vision and actions. And so that really is not too helpful in the address of emerging distrust and criticisms over the various projects branded as the Belt and Road Initiative. So in other indications of the ambiguity was that our research find out it is very difficult for us to pin down what are counted as a project of the Belt and Road Initiative, and which is not a Belt and Road Initiative projects. So it's very difficult for us to find a definitive criteria to rule things in and rule things out, because there's no official standard or official list of such projects. And even though we have some lists, we can find in various sources, okay, including government websites from time to time, but they are never exhaustive and not definitive. So in other words, they give you some examples, okay, give you some examples. So they are not. So they give you some indications of what a BRI project might be like, but there's no clear definition. And so a lot of times, it's very unclear. And I think one implication was that because that there's no, because of the lack of clarity of definition, there is no clear guidance of what is the criteria of approving a project that is involved, this is regarded as part of the BRI, of the Belt and Road Initiative program, right? So so there is no differentiation and no special criteria. So by implication, it means that a Belt and Road Initiative project is just another state project or another project under the regulatory regime of the Chinese government on investment projects, whether domestic or overseas, right? So so that is an indication that it seems that we don't have any special criteria on approving it, on overseeing its feasibility. So maybe, so is it intended, right? Does it mean that, well, because any project needs consistent treatment, right? And so we should not differentiate BRI from non-BRI, right? Well, it might be so, but I think that the challenge is that there is no clear explanation, there is no clear clarification. So people were quite at a loss of what does it mean to be a BRI project, okay? So, and we don't know what is ruled in and what is ruled out. So that is one thing, okay? And another indication and an area of ambiguity was that about roles of actors and how to work on BRI projects, or how actually, how does the BRI thing work, right? So this is actually very crucial, because this concerns about execution, right? This concerns about planning of resources and action, right? And how and it concerns about assessment of quality. So this is actually crucial. This is actually crucial, especially we all know that BRI, a lot of discussion of BRI is about investment projects, and those are huge investment projects involving massive sums of resources, right? And so not only they consume resources, they also have a major impact on the recipient countries. Of course, they intended to have massive impact and massive impact of a favorable kind, right? So in other words, they are intended to do a lot of benefits to the recipient country. But what if they are not implemented effectively, right? So the sword can be double-edged, right? So I think massive projects consuming a lot of resources have potentially huge impact. They are important because they are impactful, and so it is very important to make sure that they make a beneficial impact. And so how do the stakeholders, I mean the people who are involved in those activities, how are their roles defined? How do they work with one another about regulation or assessment, right? And how do things work together? I think these things are very important. And when ambiguities over these important matters are not a minor occurrence, then we smell problems. I think this is a major area. So this has actually in our research, we find a lot of concern among the stakeholders themselves, in fact. For instance, we can take a quick look at the key actors, right? Obviously, the government are the key actors, a major group of key actors, the Chinese government, the central level, as well as provincial level, but of course, the local level to some extent as well, but in particular, the central level and the provincial level. Because they often they play a large role in initiating or supporting projects, and central government are sometimes involved in negotiating or signing a memorandum of understanding with governments of the recipient countries. So these would be important. And the enterprises and state enterprises and banks. Enterprises includes the state-owned enterprises in China, but also some of the private enterprises. They are heavily involved as well. And banks, of course, most banks in China are state-owned, okay, or may have a major share of the owned by the state, and many of the projects, okay, implemented under the umbrella of Belt and Road, get finances from the policy banks of China. So what are the roles? Okay, what are the roles? These are important, and of course, we know that universities, the media, right? The media and various social organizations, they have been mobilized, they have been encouraged or demanded to play a role, okay, to play a role in the Belt Initiative, and often, in various kinds of communications, international communication or research, all right? In this, okay, Hong Kong, okay, in particular, because this project is Hong Kong is a major focus, okay, so I talk a little bit more about this. So Hong Kong in particular is expected to play a unique role, all right, a unique role, so described by the government, by the central government. So this is the major actors, but the problem is, how do these various major categories of actors, how do they play the role, and how should they work with one another to ensure better performance of the role? It's often less than clear. I think it boils down to cut a long story short, because this could be a very long and nuanced stories to talk about the various ambiguities. I think multiple books can be written on that. But in a nutshell, it boils down to the traditional, somewhat the traditional and very important, deep-rooted institutional issues in the governance of China, namely the role of government, right, or the party, of course, because the Communist Party of China is so important in the political system, all right. So that is so how does this role of the government, okay, including the party, you know, play into this this huge program of activities involving trillions of dollars, okay, and yuan, okay, investing and spending in a large number of countries. So I think this is a major issue to be addressed, and in particular, you know, the relationship between the state, you know, the government and the party, okay, and the enterprises. So the state-business relations, okay, in particular. Yeah. Why? Because even though, you know, the government, okay, has had a very dominant role in the Belt and Road Initiative, from the launch of policy to the design of a lot of large projects, okay, or the provision of loans, okay, or financing, the government play a very important role. But the government, you know, a lot of times they actually rely on, they call upon the business sector, of course, the state-owned sector, but not only the state-owned sector, okay, but a lot of times it's the non-state-owned sectors in China, but including Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong is not dominated by the state-owned sector, all right? The major business people in Hong Kong are private, okay? They're private entrepreneurs. I mean, they're entrepreneurs in private sector. So the business generally described, okay, they will rely upon as major actors. They are here. They are expected to play a very important role in advancing, you know, the initiative. In other words, to translate the vision, all right, of co-building, okay, you know, having more connectivity, right, or having people's bonding, right, having better communication with the rest of the world, right. So they call upon the business sectors, whether it's state-owned or non-state-owned, to do the real job, right. So that's why the state-business relations are so important, and as we all know, okay, as we are students of Chinese government and politics, you know, these are used to be, I mean, major issues in Chinese governance. All right, so I think the Belt and Road Initiative, the challenges in the Belt and Road Initiative actually, you know, reflects a lot of those pre-existing issues in the Chinese system. So with all this, okay, to wrap up, is what we see. It's in the governance of this major policy, was that the way that was being you know, I mean, the way in which the policy was in fact being operationalized, okay, and implemented was actually not very cohesive. Of course, the grand idea, right, was promulgated by Mr. Xi from the top, all right. But of course, before he promulgated this, a lot of discussions have taken place within within the Chinese bureaucracy. But nonetheless, okay, the announcement was top down. But thereafter, as I said, summarize, there has been a lot of pluralities in discussions about its objective, its emphasis, and then we have responses to external criticisms, okay, or comments, and then so a lot of times there is kind of a knee-jerk action, all right, and then and of course there were attempts to mitigate some of the obvious deficits, or try to, so that's why we have the renaming of the policy, right? We have to renaming, de-emphasize the or discourage people from talking in strategic terms. Okay, stop talking. Stop describing the policy as a strategy, but rather call it an initiative. Okay, so this is what so this is all a kind of attempt to respond to external criticisms and how and try to reduce ambiguities. But despite all these attempts, I think this is still an ongoing process. I think a lot of ambiguities still remain. In particular, the state-business relations. Okay, because a lot of times, especially when we come to Hong Kong, okay, because Hong Kong is, as we all know, okay, Hong Kong business is primarily private sector business. So when the private sector got the policy message from Beijing, all right, and to some extent from the Hong Kong government saying that, they are expected to play an active role in this major policy of the country, they very naturally would want to know how, okay, how can I contribute, okay, how can I contribute? So how can I have a role, all right? So tell me something specific, give me some suggestions, and then, okay, I will go back to my boardroom, okay, and I will talk to my senior executives, and then we come up with a plan whether we can do it or not, all right, or how, right? So I think they need some parameters, and they need better guidance, okay, in the least. But a lot of times, I think this is not. There's a lot of communication gaps, okay, between the mainland leaders and business people in Hong Kong, and also institutional misalignment as well. So I think this is something that our study have discovered. Well, am I running low my time? I think so, right? I think so. What time is it now? Yes, I should stop pretty soon. Well, put it this way. So our project intend to, given all the difficulties, okay. Of course, the difficulties we dig it up as well during our research. But after digging up all these difficulties, and we would like to ask back the questions that how can we possibly, I mean, from people from Hong Kong, how can we possibly help, right? So actually, some of the answers were we heard it from stakeholders in overseas jurisdictions, and a lot of times, actually, this is before 2019, or maybe before 2020. Okay, before 2020. I think a lot of people go back to Hong Kong traditional role as international hub, right? And then we also talk about Hong Kong's traditional role as a hotbed to foster innovation and reform in China. So there has been a lot of expectations for Hong Kong to continue to play this traditional role. And and in particular, the openness of Hong Kong as an international city and a hub, might possibly be beneficial to bridging some of the institutional gaps in the mainland system. So I should stop here, okay, because this is so big a topic that I cannot finish in so short a time. But I think enough to say that looking forward, the world is getting, and the challenges is actually deepening rather than mitigating in the last couple of years. So to some extent, our team feel that what we started, okay, a few years back, the events have vindicated, have proved that we are too right, okay? We are too right, because we anticipated there's so many risks, and then we hoped Hong Kong might be able to play a small role, but it turns out that the risk has become much bigger, okay? And they balloon, okay, basically, and then Hong Kong is also wrapped, okay, is also embraced, trapped in this difficult situation. But having said that, I think the way ahead is that we do have to strive forward to retain whatever, the openness, which is the key feature of Hong Kong. And with openness, we felt that this could be the cross to the future. Okay, so I should stop here. Yeah. Question, Si? Yeah.
Okay, that's my job. Thank you very much, Professor Lee. This is our virtual clapping right there. It's my real world clapping. That was wonderful. Thank you very much for a really informative and rich presentation on what sounds like a very large, complex, and an important project that you headed up there. So congratulations on all those fronts. That's a wonderful contribution. We are, I believe, I'm trying to manage technology here, but I think we are open now to questions. So if you wanted to put a question in the Q&A, you're more than welcome to do so, and I'll pass those along to Professor Lee for her consideration. While folks are pondering their questions, maybe I'll take the chair's initiative to offer the first one. I have I guess two really, so I'll put them to you and let you choose the order in which you ask them. First, I was really curious and impressed with the number of interviews you conducted within mainland China. To those of us who are really concerned about our way being cutting off from China, I wonder, to what extent, when you talk to people, your interlocutors in the mainland, were they open to Hong Kong playing some of these roles? And anything specific that they suggested? Or do you think, you talked in general about the various strengths of Hong Kong and about the problems in the BRI, both of which I would share, but I didn't hear anything specific about what exactly Hong Kong might do, particularly in terms of what you think folks, institutions in the mainland would be open to. So any examples you could give there would be most helpful.
Yes, certainly. Well, we in the book and in our project, we do talk about the specific, okay? Only now I did not touch on those, okay? I think the Chinese officials and the leaders, they are interested in fact, they are interested in the traditional, the major niches of Hong Kong. For instance, like Hong Kong as an international financial center, all right? So they are, so the first thing they're interested in is, in fact, is how to leverage on this international financial center to help the BRI to get more resources, right? Because they know that from day one, okay, the Chinese policy banks, they are the major sources of financing for those huge projects, right? Under the umbrella of BRI, and which is actually overstretching the Chinese side of resources. A lot of Chinese ordinary people, right? They actually very well, they are very cautious, of course, when commenting on that. But everybody thinks that, wow, my goodness, how can we afford, right, to finance all these massive projects, okay, out of the pockets from the taxpayers eventually, right? It goes back to the Chinese people, the cost. So I think so obviously yes, the how to leverage on the international and I mean the financial strength of Hong Kong, and the other is actually the legal side. Because this is an international projects, right? So involving different cultures, and obviously projects have contracts, right? So the arbitration and mediation, right? The function. So Hong Kong as an international city with a lot of talent, including professional talent, and we have a strong international arbitration center function. Right. Okay, so that has also attracted attention of the Beijing leaders as well. So they actually talk. We actually in our discussions, okay, in our research, we talk at quite some length into those potentials. Yes.
Okay, fascinating.